I'm pleased to welcome Baldomero Falcones. He's the chairman and CEO of Fomento de Construcciones y Contratas, if I've said that right, more easily known as FCC. It's one of Spain's largest construction companies, but also one of the global leaders in environmental services, renewable energy, and infrastructure. Mr. Falcones joined FCC from the finance industry. He was previously ran MasterCard based in New York and led its IPO, and he spent many years at what is now known as Santander. Mr. Falcones has pushed FCC's urban green focus with its stated aim of creating eco-efficient cities, which is a fascinating topic now. Particularly, I wanted to start with sort of the broad picture, which is the urbanization of the world. I think since 2001, the majority of the world's population now lives in urban settings, and that trend is continuing, and FCC has sort of positioned itself to take advantage of that trend. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? We were talking earlier about some of the numbers of how that trend is accelerating, and how is FCC positioning itself to take advantage of that?
Thank you very much, and thank you for your invitation to stay here in this meeting. I think the movement of the population is very exciting now. I think more and more population is becoming economic population, and as you mentioned, more than 50% of the worldwide population is urban now. It's about 60 million people that every year is moving to a city to live. And this represents an incredible challenge for politicians, an incredible opportunity for business activities. In our case, we are focused in three main activities. One is infrastructure, because the demand of infrastructure worldwide will be exponential in the coming years because of this movement of the population. Our second area of activity is environmental service, because all this population is requiring water supply, waste treatment of management, clearly environmental service. And our third area of development is renewable energy, because we are moving to a green energy, and the demand is very, very, very strong.
So maybe let's talk about the challenges of building and maintaining so-called livable cities in the aftermath of the financial crisis, because you've got dying cities like Detroit, but you also have Spanish towns, for instance, that are so hard up and facing such a budget crisis that they're even unable to pay for rubbish collection. How are you confronting that? How's that affecting you, and what are you doing about that?
Well, I think our responsibility is to develop livable cities, clearly. This is especially in emerging countries, which the population is growing so far. And it is true that this is becoming especially difficult in the crisis period, like some other activities. No? What happened is that the technology that, for instance, in our case, we have developed for the last 100 years has changed dramatically. Now we are introducing things like, for instance, the electric car, which is very important in big cities, not only because of the pollution, but also because of the acoustic pollution as well, at night or things like that. And special treatment for the waste or for the water, recycling, all these things. No? How we can manage this in the crisis in some cities that they have been growing very fast, like some cities in Spain, and they have a budget problem now, is that I think most of them, they are reacting, they are reducing overheads, but they have to maintain what is absolutely necessary for the population. And this is the kind of service we are providing.
Right. The other area where the financial crisis has impacted is renewable energy subsidies, particularly in Spain. And I think you've put a lot of focus on renewable energy, and I think millions of euros of projects have been frozen because of uncertainty over those subsidies, particularly in the solar area. Can you talk about what's happening in that front, and where do you think that is hurting the most?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I think the demand for renewable energy is not question about that. I think not only the European program of year 2020 with 20% of the energy coming from renewable, that represent for electricity 40%. 40% that will be renewable in Europe, in the European Union. That means that the demand is there. It is true that for this kind of investment, you need stable programs and with a horizon for the investment of 20 years, 25 years. And this is a problem now with the Spanish government, because the program that the Spanish government was developing was very strong. And now we need to control the situation, especially for photovoltaic energy, that the investment was developed, it was several times what the government thought. For wind energy is becoming already competitive with other kind of energy. That's, I think, is an incredible development now. And we are now trying to develop also thermosolar. Thermosolar, I think, is in the beginning. The technology is not so expensive, but all the plants that you have to develop still require the help from the subsidiary, the public subsidiaries. And finally, what we are making a strong investment is in energy from waste. I think energy from waste is one of the most renewable energy. I think what we have to do with waste, as we do, for instance, in the UK, we have a company in the UK, is a waste recycling group, is to recycle as much as possible. And I think for me, the most modern way to work on waste now is incineration plants with high temperature and produce energy.
That doesn't have emissions and therefore won't impact the environment as much.
The emissions are now, with the technology that we have now, that absolutely control is almost zero emissions, especially when you can incinerate with gas and you get high degrees. Mm-hmm. And then the emission is almost zero.
Tell me a little bit about you're involved in this thermosolar project in the Sahara. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, that is a long time. It's a very long horizon. No, it's a group of big European companies, no, that they are working on now in investigation, innovation, how to produce energy in the Sahara with thermo, it could be with photovoltaic, but I think it's thermosolar, and then to make a connection to Europe. But this is a long-term project, and I think is getting the support of big companies from different countries in Europe, and I think it will be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. The other interesting, fascinating project you've been involved in is building wind farms on rubbish dumps in the UK. Tell me a little bit about that, because I suppose that solves the problem of not in my backyard syndrome. How did you come up with that idea? Where did that project originate from?
Yeah, I think it's I think we can use the landfill areas, which are areas coming from last century, to put the wind farm there, because it's not affecting any population around. Normally these are separate, and they are also connected with the grid. And that is very interesting, and I think it's a diversification from a company as our subsidiary here in UK, Waste Recycling Group. Mm-hmm. Very interesting, I think. Because in the UK is one of the countries where there are some reaction for wind farms, but we don't have, for instance, in other countries where we develop wind farm, in Spain or in Central Europe or in Eastern Europe or in the US or in China, no? But because of the reaction, we thought it was an opportunity to get the landfill area to develop this wind farm. What's
your growth estimate for that business, wind farms? How much growth do you think you're going to get in that area?
In total, we think that it will represent about 20% of our activity, and it could represent 20% of our EBITDA in 4 years, something like that.
That's from what it is now, is how much?
Now we are producing something like 1,000 megawatt, And our idea is in 3 years to double
it.
to 2,000 megawatt.
Incredible. And likewise, you talked a little bit about waste recycling. Is that a new high growth area? How much growth are you expecting to get out of that business?
No, I think, as I mentioned before, because of the increase in the population, urban population, and because of the increase in the demand for environmental solution and modern solution, I think it's an incredible demand. Cities are facing big problems in terms of this kind of service. And it's something that there are European companies that they have in this market. They have been in this market for long. We have, as I mentioned before, the technology and with the know-how and the experience to develop our activity worldwide.
The other thing that FCC is involved in is infrastructure and building. I think you're building the metro system in Singapore,
yes,
Panama, and an underground system in New Delhi as well. What are the challenges of doing those projects? These are opportunities not to just fix existing infrastructure, but to build new infrastructure from scratch. What kind of innovative things are you including in these projects seeing that you're starting them from scratch? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, some of the projects you mentioned are under construction, or some of them are under expansion. For instance, in Singapore, we finished the first phase, and then we are developing a new phase of the underground in the city. No? I think there is a new technology. Is this big machine that there are 100 meters long, that they made a tunnel, and it's incredibly productive, and it's not disturbing the city and the population. No? And I think this is very, very effective. Spain was one of the countries that developed more this technology with machine coming from Germany and some other countries. And I think it was because of the special condition of especially Madrid area, in terms of geological conditions. And now we are using this in America, in Asia, in some other part of the world, yes.
Mm-hmm. Using that, you've got a project to build the first high-speed train in the U.S., I believe?
Yeah, this is another kind of project. This is a high speed. Also, I think Spain made a large investment in infrastructure for the last 15 years. Incredible investment, and because of that, we have good technology. I think we have very good teams and also very good reference. And for instance, in a high-speed train, I think Spain could be now one of the countries with the longest kilometers for high-speed trains. And because of that, we are working in some other areas, in some other countries like the US or Saudi Arabia or Brazil, because I think it's very important. The demand for transportation for this population that is becoming urban or economic is very high.
So what are the challenges of managing a company so diverse? I think you operate in 54 countries. Almost half of your revenue comes from international businesses. What management strategies have you imported from your time in the finance industry to managing FCC?
Well, I think I have been working in international activities for all my career, in the finance and in the MasterCard you mentioned and some other. What I think is very important is that diversity, the different culture, the different way to approach the business is part of the riches of a company. I think it's very important to develop this and to get the best for the different culture and for the different executives from different areas and regions, And I think sometimes companies are too much rigid. And we try these ideas of one vision, one idea. I don't believe on that. I think it's very important to get the best from everybody, from every country and every culture. And this is a richness that the company cannot neglect it, clearly. that's the way to manage this kind of. We are operating in about 60 countries. Yes.
So which sectors do you feel have the greatest growth, and are you looking at perhaps divesting, particularly on the property side or the construction side, are you looking at any divestments?
Well, I mentioned in the beginning, we are clearly focused on these three areas. I mean, all regarding mobility, infrastructure. We design, we build, we manage, we have concessions for all kind of infrastructure. Environmental service, everything regarding water or urban service. For instance, we have a company that is also developing things like publicity in the furniture, in the public furniture in the cities, no? In America, in North America, in New York, or in Boston, or in Sao Paulo, in Brussels, or in Madrid, no? But not only that, it's water, it's publicity, it's waste, it's traffic lights, it's all that the city requires. And the third area is renewable energy. And we focus on these three areas because we are clear, it's pretty sure that the demand will be incredible.
I'd like to open up to questions. Does anyone have any questions to ask? No?
It's Dr. Chada from IBM. I just want to ask you one question. What we are seeing a phenomena worldwide, globally, is that people are moving from edges of the city, rural areas, into the center. That's happening in China, India, even in the United Kingdom. Which means the GDP of a nation is being consolidated at the center of the cities rather than on the edges and the rural areas. So my question is, how can you reverse it? Your thoughts, welcome.
As far as I understood your question, I agree that I mentioned that population is becoming urban, and the demand for services is incredible because we need to develop cities that are sustainable. There are beautiful projects now, for instance, in Asia, in China, in some others, from areas that they are absolutely sustainable. They don't consume any kind of, they recover, they recycle everything. The second thing about diversity, I think, it was part of your question, is when I was speaking about diversity, I was speaking of a company. We have 100,000 employees worldwide, okay? And the way to get the best for this different culture, because each of these is a different approach, a different way to do the business, you know. And my thoughts, not only the thoughts, the way I'm managing this company is to get from diversity as much as we can. But diversity in terms of different culture. I don't know if I got the question right.
Does that satisfy? Do you want to repose your question?
Is that?
No, what I was trying to get at was that there are a lot of people, they're moving into the city center to get work.
Yeah.
Right? So which means there's a huge concentration, for example, in London, right?
Yes.
We find lots of people coming from outside to work in London. So which means we are creating a market, a GDP, a gross domestic product, with London, which is, creating a lot of money for other people who tend to come.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that there's a great immigration of people, right, from the city edges, rural areas, into the center. So which means there is a lot of resources needed for the city centers, etc. Right? So my question is, how can you reverse this, immigration from the rural and the edges back into the rural and the edges? Is it digital connectivity, or is it better transport, or
Well, I think it's a good question. It's a good question, no? And I think you're right. Part of this is to provide the same kind of service in the rural area or in the areas near the big cities. You have to provide the same service population is looking for when they are moving to the cities. That's mean in terms of water supply, in terms of education, in terms of wealth, and all this, you know. But they need transportation. I fully agree with you. They need transportation because it's very important that they can spend, I don't know, the weekend, or because they are able to culture development that they need, and it's difficult to develop near the big cities now. But I think in any movement, there is at the end there is an equilibrium. I mean, the pendulum came back, you know, and I think with this investment that we are developing in most of the countries, we are recovering this population to small urban centers, but small, not rural, okay? And I think the only way is with infrastructure and equipments.
Okay. Any other questions?
Pilar Moreno from the Spanish Embassy. Baldomero, I'd like to ask you about your opinion about the Spanish economy and what is happening at the moment.
Well, I think Spain is facing, we are in an international crisis, no question about it. I think all of us, we agree on that. No? And that was because it was a strong increase in liquidity and perhaps deregulation in the system. No? But Spain was growing faster than the rest of European countries, almost double that the average of European countries. That means that the adjustment in Spain has to be stronger, clearly has to be stronger. And especially in real estate, that was a boom because of the growing of the economy and because of the capital cost after Spain joined the euro. And we need an adjustment, clearly, and we are doing, and very strongly, because Spain, that before has a 10% deficit in the current account deficit, now has been reduced by half. I mean, now the current account deficit is 4.5%, which is something that you can manage. And something similar has happened in terms of the saving. Spain has more than double the saving ratio, which is higher than now the other European countries. The average of the European countries has been near 20%, and it was below 10%. That means that the adjustment is already in the country. The country was with a very high ratio in investment. It was 30%. The investment ratio, it was almost double the European. No? And that means that we need to reduce this. I think this will need at least 1.5 years more, clearly, if not 2 years more. I think that the public finance situation is not bad because at the beginning of the crisis we have only a ratio of 30% of the GDP in public debt. Now is 50 something, but it's not 125 or 140 like other European countries, or like Japan, or like the US. No, the US is almost 100. It's 96 or something like that. No, this is not the problem of the public finance. It has been a problem of the leverage of the country once we joined the euro, and the country was strongly leveraged to develop the investment of the Spanish company in other parts of the world that has been developed in the last 15 years, and this real estate boom and all the investment in the infrastructure. But I think the country is doing the adjustment and doing what they have to do to resolve this situation and to be in a similar situation like other European or other Western countries. We have one thing which is a good asset, that the situation of the Spanish bank is very strong, and that was because the Bank of Spain made 2 decisions that they were very important. One, it was, okay, if you are going to be active in the disintermediation, you need to put capital for this. And that means that the Spanish banks, they were not in the disintermediation that affect all these problems in some other financial center and institution. And the second thing was, okay, now you are in a very expansionary period. You need to make a special provision that they were called anti-cyclical provision that they are using now, okay? These two things, in the last program for the G20, they are putting in place for other countries, what means they were working well. No? But I think we need to finalize this adjustment. The most difficult situation is regarding the unemployment ratio, which is high, and but I think it will be reduced quickly.
Okay, I think that's all we have time for. Oh, did you have one last quick question?
It's working. Very quickly, just wanted to ask, a few years ago there was a lot of trouble about ownership of properties and developers actually trying to build developments in Spain, and there was a lot of trouble about ownership, and some people actually ended up being disenfranchised from their own investments and from their own properties. Do you know what's changed since then in Spain in terms of people that want to invest in either property developments or in their own, just a private property even? What's changed since then to give us confidence in investing in property development in Spain?
Let me tell you something, is that, well, first of all, you don't have a problem with the currency, it's the euro, okay? You don't have a problem with the legislation. I think it's, I don't know the number of European or non-Spanish that they own houses in Spain is large. It could be 1 million or 1.5 million, I don't know. The only thing it's something which is different from other legislation is that in Spain, when a bank is giving you a loan to buy a house, okay, you are responding with your assets, okay? You are responding with your assets and with your accounts. And this is the legislation we have, okay? That means that the risk of non-payment for the Spanish people in terms of financing houses is very low, below 1% in terms of cost of risk, you saw. But this is different from other culture in which the mortgage, only the asset is responding from the loan, okay? And this is what is creating some problems and some questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Baldo.
Thank you very much. Thank you.